Good morning, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? I hope you are well. I'm doing fine. Finally heard from Daria, and it's just she just gets busy. The hell is that? She just gets busy. The daughter is home from the hospital, which is good news. So, anyway, I'm not used to that, but we'll figure that out. Anyway, hope everybody's well on this Friday. We'll get back to baseball picks. We've got gold 33.53, so it's made a nice move up, but it's really just running in this range between 33.20 and 33.60. We're not being able to jump it out. Silver 38.19, same thing. It's been running between 37.80 and 38.50. There's no breakouts happening, which is very surprising with all the demand. Mark McGuire talks about it today. A little alligators on as a guest. They still don't understand inflation. They understand it from the standpoint money printing, not prices. They still want to call doing dollars debasement when it's inflation, but they do get it right. They know they're going to need more dollars to buy things in the future, which is why you buy gold and silver now. The gold and silver price, as you know, is going up, but the dollar is going down. So this is the inflation I just wanted to touch base on before we get to baseball. So I was talking to my friend from Vegas, and I told him about buying gold and silver. So we bought gold a couple years ago. I says, "Well, what did you buy it at?" And he says, 2,000 an ounce. I says, "Well, good. Now it's roughly 3,400, and it's headed higher." So that's when he told me he's got some in the safety deposit box, and I says, "Get it out of the bank. You cannot leave anything in a safety deposit box unless it's at Egon's in Switzerland in the mountain. You don't want it in a safety deposit box because the bank will merely close and not let you get it. The bank's not going to say, yeah, we're closed. But, oh, yeah, you got money in the safety deposit box? Sure, come on in. They won't do that. They're just going to steal it. Or they're just not going to let you in the bank, which I guess would be if they can open up the safety deposit box, they'll steal it. They're not going to give you your gold. That's what happened in 1930 when in the US FDR said, well, we're taking your gold. They went into your accounts and took your gold, and they gave you the $20. It was worth $20 an ounce. They gave you the $20. Then they proceeded to move the price up to $35, but after they took the 20, kind of that's government for you, right? Always stealing from us because we have the money. Because we're smarter than they are. I was watching something today, and it confirmed everything we said. I was watching Douglas McGregor, and he basically confirmed what we say, that nobody in government knows what they're doing. None of the finance people are economists. None of them are economists. None of them know what they're doing. If you do have some economists, they are Keynesians, which we know are idiots. But he confirmed the thing that we're being run by morons, And why is that? That's my point. Why aren't we doing it like a football team and go hire an offensive coordinator that's actually been an offensive coordinator, and get a head coach who's been a head coach, and get a GM who knows what he's talking about? I find most of the GMs and head coaches in most sports now are just freaking idiots. They don't know. They don't have a clue what they're doing. They're just watching analytics. And I think you see this because you keep having NFL's 32 teams. Every year you have between 7 and 10 coaches fired. And then they hire the same dumb idiots, and they get fired within a year or two. The GMs are clueless. They don't know what talent is. And, but the point is, if you hire a good coach, he at least has coached football before. So if you're the government, at least hire somebody who understands finance and economics to be your Treasury Secretary. This Scott Simpson guy is clueless. He doesn't have a clue. He's a historian. So what the fuck does that mean? He worked for George Soros. So he's probably just a yes man for Soros. Whatever you want, George. You're the man. We'll do whatever you want. But it's not like he actually knows what he's doing. So you find that the government's filled with lawyers who are bloodsuckers, who just take money and do, whatever they take the lobbyists' money. Think about it. Why would you run for office? You got to be out of your mind. So, I can get rich because the lobbyists will give me money and I'll just vote the way they want. That's not why you go into government. You go into government to help the people, represent the people. That was the idea. Anyway, so it's terrible what they're doing, and they're ruining the country. The country's ruined. I mean, you're living you're living in a fantasy if you think everything's all right here. If you think the $44,000 stock market is actual, you're out of your mind. All right, let's see. Let's see what the stock market's doing. It's probably over 44,000. It's down $170 today to 44.3. This is a fantasy. This is not a real number. It's done with analytics and algorithms and things like that. It's bullshit. I just heard $40 trillion of foreigners' money in there, which will come out because they're going to need money to buy gold and silver soon. So they will be pulling their money out, which is going to cause it to crash. This is very near crashing right now. We'll listen to Mark McGwire later. But this is not real. So again, the government doesn't give you reality. It doesn't tell you what's really going on, unfortunately. That's why you got to be independent. You got to learn and understand it on your own, which is what I'm doing, is teaching you. Then you get it, and then you go, oh, this is bullshit. Right? It's like Drake May's a good quarterback. No, that's bullshit. He's not. And Caleb's going to be a good quarterback. No, he's not. But Joe Burrow is, and Mahomes is, and Bo Nix is, and Daniels is, and Penix is. And then you can make your assumptions based on getting good information, not bullshit. But they keep wanting to call inflation debasement. Debasement, as I've said several times on here, is taking the gold and silver out of the gold and silver coins. You debase the coins. You don't debase the dollars. You inflate them. You print them. You can't print coins. They're virtually both inflation, but the basement is not what you do with paper. And again, What they said is if the paper isn't backed by anything, it's worthless. This is what I've said several times here. That's the problem with it. Now I notice, let's walk through this. Yesterday, we were talking about. I was at the club working out, and they were talking about stable coins. So I asked the question, what is a stable coin bill? What the hell is it? So here's the AI overview. A stablecoin bill refers to proposed or passed legislation that aims to regulate stablecoins, a type of cryptocurrency pegged to a stable asset like the US dollar. Well, you're pegging it to monopoly money. These bills, like the Genius Act, seek to establish the framework for the issuance, custody, and use of stablecoins, often with the goal of providing consumer protections, right, and enabling wider adoption of these digital assets. What are stablecoins? Stablecoins are cryptocurrencies designed to maintain a stable value. The fuck does that mean? Often by being pegged to a fiat currency like the US dollar. This pegging aims to reduce the volatility. How? Associated with other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which is extremely volatile, making them more suitable for everyday transactions and payments. Can I go to Kroger's or McDonald's or my barbecue or buy a car with stable coins? What is a stablecoin bill? A stablecoin bill is a legislative act that aims to regulate the issuance, custody, and use of stablecoins. And by the way, we're going to 1099 you when you sell them. But they don't tell you that. This is a control bill. This is like CBDCs, only worse, because this is going to, you're not going to realize this is a 1099. Plus, what's the value of the stable coin? You're tying it to the dollar. What's the value of the dollar? Zero. What's the value of Bitcoin? Zero, because it's not backed by anything. These bills often address issues like reserve requirements, requiring stablecoin issuers to hold reserves of the underlying assets in dollars to back this. Then what's the point of the stablecoin? So in other words, well, I have 100 stablecoins, but I have to have $100 if it's a dollar a stablecoin to back it because it's not real. Custody and redemption, establishing rules for how stablecoins are held and redeemed by users. You got to redeem them. So I can just go to the bank and I want to take my stablecoins and give me dollars. What's the point of the stablecoin? Oversight and regulation, assign regulatory authority to agencies like the Federal Reserve, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, or the Securities and Exchange. Why do I want them to regulate? So it's the same thing as the CBDC. Oh, my favorite, consumer protection. Implementing measures to protect users from fraud, management, or losses associated with stablecoins. That's a red flag when they're going to protect users from fraud. Yeah, sure they are. Defining stablecoins, clarifying whether stablecoins are securities, commodities, or other type of financial instruments. The goal is to create a clear legal and regulatory framework that allows for this responsible growth and use of stablecoins while mitigating potential risk. What kind of risk if it's a stablecoin? It's a cryptocurrency, which I really hate that word because it's not a currency. Is it going to be used at McDonald's, at Burger King, at Chinese food, at clothes? You go into the mall, you go into Saks, you're going to Kroger's. Can you use it there? I don't think so, because it's not accepted. The stores don't want it. Hey, Awas, I am fine. How are you today? Um, that's the thing. The stable coins, the same bullshit as Bitcoin. It's not real. Anything, if it has to be backed by dollars, the dollars aren't worth anything. So that's the biggest laugh. Oh, it's backed by dollars? Yeah. What's the point of the stable coin then? They're making it sound like it's a big thing and crypto, and they're making crypto sound like it's a big thing. It's a Ponzi scheme. Stable coins and Bitcoin are the same made off Ponzi scheme. As soon as I heard that, I thought this is another Ponzi scheme. First of all, the problem with Bitcoin is it's private, not public, which means the government, it's not backed by the government. In other words, the bill is backed by the government. So you have to take this, and this is worth $1. The problem is the dollar has no value, but it's worth $1 backed by the government. So the government determines that it has a value. Bitcoin's not backed by the dollar, by the government. Bitcoin's its own thing. It has no value. And that's the problem with it. So I just thought I'd bring in that. I heard that. I almost fell off my bike, riding my bike yesterday, going, what the fuck is this? You've got to be kidding me. So anyway, that I would not run to buy a stable coin. I will never buy a stable coin. I will never drive an electric car, and I'm going to have no plans on flying to Mars. What is this? All this bullshit they're talking about. So, an example of a stablecoin bill, the Genius Act. This bill passed by the Senate and the House establishes a regulatory framework for stablecoins, including requirements for reserves, custody, and redemption. Why do you need a regulatory act? You don't need anything for gold. All right. Anyway, we'll get back to that. But it is scary anytime the government regulates things, it's bad. You want free market, Austrian economics, you want laissez faire, leave it alone, invisible hand. That's what you want. So stable coins, there should be more than one, and they should compete with each other. That's what keeps it honest, right? Because once the government gets involved and you make it a monopoly, the government gets bribed like they do with the defense contractors. And the government starts taking bribes and who knows what it is. You want competition. Give me 2 or 3 stable coins. And whatever is the best one will compete with each other. And then you'll know it's okay. You don't need to regulate. Once you start regulating, it's all done. All right, let's see. Gold 33.55, silver 38.21. So gold is just sitting there at 38.355, and we're getting close to noon. All right, the Dow 44.334, down 150 is a joke. It's being propped up by money printing, and they don't want to scare people. So in other words, the market crashed, everybody, oh my God. So nobody's prepared for what's happening. If you talk to your financial planner, what does he say? Well, no, we're fine. Everything's going to be fine. Stay in the stock market. That never hurts. Or the housing market. Oh, that never collapses. Nobody defaults on their mortgage. Yeah, we saw that. J.J. Watt got a big extension yesterday. Okay, I don't know why they pay these guys so much, but it's monopoly money anyway. All right, let's go to MLB. Now, my contention is this was fixed, the All-Star game, because they didn't pay off for the National League One. All right, so let's look at the box score. So it's 6-0 after 6 innings. And then the American League scores 4 in the 7th and 2 in the 9th. So what happened? What happened in the 7th and the 9th? Brent Rooker homered. I never heard of this guy. Homered to deep left center. Jonathan Arando scored. Alejandro Kirk scored. Never heard these players. Bobby Witt grounded out. Malik Garcia scored. So the question is, who is pitching in the 7th? Then in the 9th, Bobby Witt doubled to right. Byron Buxton scored. Stephen Kwan singled to shallow center. Bobby Witt scored. So let's see who's pitching in the 7th and the 9th, because that's where I'm going to get my this is what the National League. Who's pitching for the National? 1 second inning, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So in the 7th inning, Moranjan, never heard of, R. Rodriguez, and Miguel. So Moranjan and Rodriguez each gave up 2 runs. Let's see their ERAs. ERA, INF. Doesn't have one because he didn't pitch. Well, what was his ERA? Rodriguez, see, they're giving me game time ERAs, which I don't want. What is their normal ERA? So let's look up. And I don't even know what teams these are. Morange, Rodriguez. Then in the 9th, Suarez. Is this the guy out of San Francisco? He was pretty good. What is the manager doing pitching, bringing in Rodriguez after Morange, and they give up? The Rodriguez gave up a home run. These are all-star pitching relievers, I assume. So let's write these guys down. All right. So we've got Morajan R. Rodriguez. And then we've got Suarez. Well, let's see. Maybe we can go in Moranjan. Adrian Moranja's San Diego pitcher. He's a bullpen guy. And his ERA for 2025, 47 games, 7-4, 2 saves, 3 blown saves, ERA of 1.85. So he gives up 2 runs. Then we get to Rich Rodriguez, the coach of West Virginia. I don't know what he was doing in it. Randy Rodriguez, San Francisco. Is he a bullpen guy? Yes, he's a bullpen guy. And 41 games, 3-1, 1 save, 1 blown save. And his ERA is 0.86. Doesn't sound like a 0.86 guy giving up 2 runs. And then we'll get to our last fellow, Suarez from San Diego. And he chokes also, gives up the tying 2 runs. 2025. So he's also a bullpen guy. 43 games, 2-4 record, 28 saves. ERA of 3.54. Why would you bring in a 3.54 guy? Unbelievable. So I question him. Mizorowski pitched 1 inning, gave up 1 hit, and that was it. No runs. Why didn't you stay with him? You don't have to pitch the guys an inning each. Mizorowski is on Milwaukee, and he's kind of a starter, so he's used to going more than an inning. and his ERA is 2.81. So what the fuck are you doing letting up these San Diego guys in the bullpen who clearly suck? Anyway, was it fixed? Well, here's why I think it's fixed. You can question me on this. Here's my theory. It's because Vegas didn't pay off, right? Because it theoretically was a 6-6 tie. Why don't they go to extra innings? They might get hurt. Then why have the game? So they have a home run derby. And then the National League won 7-6 on the home run derby. But for some reason, that doesn't count as the National League winning. Well, they won 7-6. What do you mean it doesn't count? So you got the National League with a 6-run lead. You give up 4 runs in the 7th and 2 runs in the 9th with these bullshit bullpen guys who are not clutch, who are not all-stars. And this is the problem with the all-stars, is you're putting in guys, half the Tigers did not belong. McKinstry, Happy Baez, Ricky Green. I'm not sure. The second baseman was an all-star. Skubal was an all-star, but I'm not sure Casey Mize was an all-star. So the Tigers had one all-star, one guy who was really like a good player. Otherwise, they're all just because they get the pitching, because they're stealing the signs and they know what's coming, they hit. Notice in the All-Star game, none of them hit, right? The second baseman didn't hit. Ricky Green didn't hit. Happy Baez didn't hit. McKinstry didn't hit because they didn't know what the signs were. They didn't know what the pitches were, so they couldn't hit them. But you're talking about utility men. Baez doesn't play every day. McKinstry doesn't play he gets pinch hit for. Ricky Green strikes out all the time. And, okay, the one guy, the second baseman hits okay. But that's it. But he's not an all-star. So it's really, this is the problem. You're putting guys in the All-Star game who are not all-stars. And then at the end, these relievers who aren't all-stars go in and blow up a 6-run lead. But the problem is Vegas says we're not paying if it's a tie. If it's 6-6, we're not going to extra innings. We're going to have a home run derby for some reason. I never heard of that before in baseball. That's something in soccer, but we don't care about soccer. It's in hockey. So if you're telling me you're not paying off even though my team won, no, you got to bet it a different way. You got to bet it for ties, or you got to bet it for they're going to win it in a home run derby. That's what my friend told me. In soccer, you either bet for a winner, a tie, or they win it in the shootout. Well, I thought they had to win it in the shootout. I'm not sure of that rule. I don't follow soccer at all. So basically, everybody who bet the game got fucked, and I'm assuming there was more National League action because Vegas gets the LA crowd. So a lot of people probably bet on the Dodger people. And that's what happened. So everybody gets fucked on the bet. You blow a 6-0 lead, and you don't think there's fixing going on. Pretty naive. I don't buy anything, right? I question everything. And it ended 6-0. Okay. But the way it ended with 2 runs in the 9th to tie, and then find out they don't pay out on ties. And why is there a tie? Why aren't we going longer, this All-Star game? Well, we got to pitch. Everybody's got to get into the game, and we can only let them pitch to one batter and all this bullshit. Anyway, very, very disappointing. When I heard that, I was just ridiculous. All right. Let's go to baseball now. Today, 2:20, it's 12 o'clock. Boston goes to the Cubbies. The Cubbies. Now, what do we do with our trends? So if we look at our trends, let's go back to our standings. All right. Boston's on a 10-game win streak, which we know. We've got Tampa on a 4-game losing streak. So we'll put that in. We've got Detroit on a 4-game losing streak. We've got that. And Seattle's on a 3-game win streak. We'll wait till they get to 4. The National League, Washington on a 4-game losing streak. Got to get so many calls. Like, it's ridiculous. Milwaukee on a 7-game win streak. We have. And that's it. So everybody else is 1 or 2. That's why you don't get a lot of the streaks. So when you got them, you got to take advantage of them. So most teams lose 1, win 1. It's mostly the pitchers, right? The ace comes in, he wins. The other guys suck, they lose. So what do we have? We have Boston on a 10-game win streak at the Cubs. Luis Giolito, 6-1 with the 3.36 against Colin Ray. Pretty good pitcher, 7-3 with the 3.91. The Cubs are a big favorite, 7.5. So I'm going to take Boston here. Now, my fear is after the break, will Boston, I'm going to play 2 units. After the break, you've had a week off. Does it ruin the streaks? This I don't know. But we've been on Boston the last 3 games, 4 games. No, we bet them over there. So we bet on Boston to win the last 3 games. We've won 3. So here, the worst we do is lose 1, or they keep winning. It's going to take, they got to get back in the group. So we'll take Boston, but only for 2 units. They win today, we'll take them for 5 units tomorrow. Again, Luis Giolito, 6-1 with a 3.36. He's not a bad pitcher. The game's in Wrigley. The White Sox at Pittsburgh, we have no trends. Pitt finally won. Pitt 178.5. Jonathan Cannon 3-7, 4.44. Bailey Falter 6-4, 3.79. Where's Scanes? Why Scanes pitched Tuesday, Wednesday, but he pitched an inning. He didn't pitch the whole game. Very surprised they're not going with Scanes here, that he needs 5 days rest after pitching 1 inning in an all-star game. I'm going to lay away from this. This is where you get problems. The 4.44 to the 3.79. You got 2 teams that can't hit. They both are weak hitters. So what did I got? The White Sox, 4 hitters, and Pittsburgh, 3 hitters. So neither team really hits. Pitching little about around 4 is a little bit high. So I'm going to pass on that because I got pitchers that are inconsistent. They're not professionals. I don't know what to do with them. California goes to Philly. Philly, no trend. 228.5, and actually I have no pitchers. If it's Ranger Suarez, we're betting the Ranger today. San Diego, Washington. I believe I have something here. I have Washington on a 4-game losing streak, so we would be tempted to bet San Diego on that. San Diego 145, 8.5. Dylan Cease 3-9 with a 4.88. Michael Soroka 3-7 with a 5.35. Pretty shitting pitching for Washington. So we'll take San Diego here, 2 units. Again, we have Washington on a 4-game losing streak. And we got Dylan Cease, who I like, and Soroka is bad. So I'll go with it because they're on it. Otherwise, this would be an over with these bad pitchers, but I might lose on it. San Francisco, Toronto. I don't believe I got anything there. It's basically Boston, Milwaukee, Detroit, Washington, and Tampa Bay are the streaks right now. So far, the streaks are working pretty good. We hit 10 in a row on the Yankees under. Now the Yankees are hitting. We got off of them, and now we're on the Yankees over. See, that's the beauty of the streak. You don't think about it. they're not hitting, they're going under, you keep betting it. All of a sudden, they start hitting, you lose your one game, but now you see they're hitting a lot. The guys are back. DiCarlo's back, and LeMahieu's hitting. So all of a sudden, now you're going, wait. The variables changed. They're hitting the ball. Now we go over with the Yankees. All right, Frisco, Toronto. Toronto 145, 8.5. Justin, the Anvil Verlander, 0-7 with the force. I don't think he's ever been 0-7, even in high school. Against Chris Bassett, 9-4 with the 4.12. So I like Bassett here, but not enough. Verlander can shut you out anytime he wants to. Apparently, he doesn't want to right now. He gives up a lot of runs, and he's just 42 years old. I believe he's done. And Toronto, it's the first day. Let's take a look. I would think Toronto is good here, but I'm not going to bet it because Bassett's got a 4.12 ERA also. And Frisco's got this great reliever I saw. It was Sunday Night Baseball. Guy came in the 8th. He was unbelievable, but he didn't pitch the 9th because he might have gotten tired the day before the All-Star break. So I thought that was insanity. KC Miami, KC 125-8. Seth Lugo 6-5, 267. Does pitch low-scoring games. Sandy Alcantara 4-9 with the 7.22. He was good last year. He sucks this year. I'm going to go Kansas City, and we'll go 2 units. Now, there's no trend on this, but this is just a good pitcher against a bad pitcher. Cincinnati goes to the Jets, Jets. The Jets are minus 157.5. Nick Lodolo 6-6 with the 3.38. Sean Manaea 0-1 with the 2.70. So this should be an under game, but since they both scare me, they both can hit. So I'm not going to play the under. This is not a game to play the under, even though the point would be if you got 2 good pitchers to play it under. But what's happening is they only pitch 5, maybe 6 innings, and the bullpens are so weak because there's not that many good relievers. If each team has 10 relievers and there's 32 teams, that's 320 relievers. Of the 320, you maybe have 10 that are professionals. The others are amateurs. They are minor leaguers, which you can't trust, and they're not consistent. So I'm not touching it because that's who I know I'm going to get, and then I'll blow my lead, and these teams hit too well. So they might not hit in the first 5, 6 innings. They will hit in the last 3. Oakland goes to Cleveland. Cleveland 135-8. JP Sears 7.7, 4.79. Slade Cione 4-4 to 3.44. I'm not touching this. Oakland hits. Cleveland doesn't. Cleveland's got a great bullpen. Oakland doesn't. So again, it's too many contradictories. I'm not going to play it. The Yanks in Atlanta. Unfortunately, I don't have pitchers. Is Max Fried going? If not, why not? Atlanta, is John Smoltz going? I don't know. Baltimore, Tampa. Tampa's on a 4-game losing streak. Tampa 125-9. Charlie Morton for Baltimore 5-7 with a 5.18. Ty Bradley 5-6 with the 4.60. I don't like Charlie Morton. I'm not going to bet on him. So even though Tampa's got a 4-game losing streak, let's see what happens here. I don't feel comfortable. And just because it's a winning or a losing streak, it's got to look right. It's got to be, I think that can happen. But in here, it's the pitching and the bullpen and the managers, and it's terrible. All right, Detroit, they're on a 4-game losing streak. I hope this goes to 20 games. Everybody's saying, oh, Detroit doesn't lose. They don't get on losing streaks. Oh, fuck you. Sure they do. Detroit at Texas. Detroit 110, 8.5. Reed Olson 4-3 at the 2.95. Patrick Corbin 6-7 with the 4.54. So I'm going to go Texas, 2 units. I don't mind Corbin. Reese Olson isn't that good. I doubt his 2.95. Let's look at the last 5 games of Reese Olson. I don't get that. The good thing is he's from Georgia. He's probably a Bulldog. Actually, it doesn't show that he He was drafted by Milwaukee, but it doesn't show his college. His last 5, pitched 5 innings, gave up 2 runs, pitched 4 innings, gave up a run. 6 innings shutout to Toronto, 4 innings, gave up 3 runs. 5 innings shutout California, 4 innings, gave up 3 runs to Houston. So he's given up 3, 3, 2, and a 1. And he's had 2 shutouts in his last 2, 4, 6 games. And he gave up 4 to Minnesota earlier and 4 to the Dodgers. So, who's he shutting out? San Diego, California in 5 innings, 4 innings, 4 innings, 5. So he doesn't pitch much, and the Tiger bullpen sucks. So I have no problem betting on Texas. Well, let's look at Patrick Corbin. Patrick Corbin, his last 5, gave up 2 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs, 5 runs, 4 runs. So this guy's terrible too. So do I want to take Texas with both pitchers sucking? This is probably an over. Because Reese Olson, I don't smell when he's cooking. Corbin's pretty bad though, so I'm gonna not play this game, even though Detroit's on a streak. Again, I don't like the pitcher. Now I got Jacob deGrom, which I don't know why he's not pitching, and they have another guy. So if Texas wins tonight and they get deGrom or the other guy who's got a low ERA the next 2 days, I'll be on them. And I don't know why Skubal's not pitching. I mean, the All-Star game was Tuesday, and they pitched 1 inning. Wednesday, Thursday, it's not like he needs 5 days rest from pitching an inning. Jesus Christ. Are these guys athletes or are they old ladies? Minnesota, Colorado, I got nothing on that. I got Minnesota 160 and 11 in Colorado. Chris Paddock 3-8 with the 4.95. Kyle Freeman 1-10 with the 5.40. Just on the 1-10, you bet Minnesota. I can't bet the over, although the both pitchers suck, but the hitting, Minnesota can hit. Colorado can't. Hard to play Minnesota 3-8 with the 4.95 guy. So I'm going to let that go. St. Louis at Arizona, I don't have anything there. Milwaukee will be our last one. Arizona 139. Adrian Palantine 5-5 with the 4.49 against Brandon Pfaadt, 9-6 with the 5.16. Not a real good pitcher. Neither of them are. I think they both hit fairly well. Arizona 5 hitters. St. Louis was 6. Then it's down to 3 hitters. They should be well rested. I'm going to go over 9 here. I'm going to go St. Louis over 9, 2 units. This is where I got 2 bad pitchers and 2 teams that hit. I know Arizona can hit and St. Louis. So let's assume a lot of hitting. The pitchers should be well rested. And neither team had anybody in the All-Star game who was a pitcher. So Milwaukee at the Dodgers. Now, Milwaukee, we got on a 7-game win streak. So Boston has the 10-game. We took Boston. And then Milwaukee. And see, it doesn't make sense. Boston's not pitching their ace, Croquet, coming off the All-Star break. Oh, he pitched an inning in the game. Okay. Big fucking deal. Milwaukee on the 7-game win streak at the Dodgers. The Dodgers 190 and 8.5. Quinn Prester 7-2 with the 3.55 against Tyler Glasnow 1-0 with the 3.52. I'm going to take Milwaukee for 2 units. The Dodgers show me nothing. They show me no bullpen at all. Milwaukee's very good bullpen, and they're on a 7-game win streak. So we'll see. Let me say hi to D. Just a second. Just a second. Okay, sorry about that. Talking to my Daria. Um, all right. So we take Milwaukee over the Dodgers. Last game's Houston, Seattle. Seattle minus 135, 7.5. Brandon Walter, 1-2 with the 3.98. Seattle Luis Castillo, 6-5 with the 3.41. The way Seattle manhandled Detroit, they should be on a 3 or 4 game winning streak. I mean, they swept Detroit, so they're probably on they're on a 3 game win streak. So I would think Seattle, Houston's pretty. Let's see if we have a good pitching advantage. Castillo 6-5, 3.41. Brandon Walter, I don't know. Let's look at Castillo, how he's done his last 5 games. So you want to do trends within the trends. You're playing blackjack. Well, you're playing roulette, and it's 6 blacks in a row. So you're going to keep betting the black. And you don't care about the 100 rolls before, the 100, flips before. You're not interested in that. You're only interested in what is coming up. So, and the same thing in back rack. You're not really looking, it's bank, player, 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 player. I'm not interested in 20 hands ago. I'm interested in just the current hands. That's why I do it in baseball and in football. Football, I'll do that a lot. I'll look at the team the last 5 or 6 games and get their offense and defense, and also who they played. That's what I'm trying to look at. All right, Luis Castillo. Sorry about that, everybody. 3 runs against Detroit, shutout against Pitt, 1 run against Texas, 5 against Minnie, 3 against Boston, 2 against Cleveland, and 6 against California. So he's pretty much all over the place. Not really that good. So we're going to stay away from Seattle. Although Seattle's on a good streak, 6-5. The 3-4-1 is not the last 6 games. Walter 3-9. So I don't trust these guys. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. Let's go over with this. This is a ridiculous number. Seattle over 7.5 for 2 units. Now Seattle's been hitting the hell out of the. They killed the Tigers, including Scooble. They got 12 runs, 15 runs, and 8 runs. They got Houston, who hits. Oh yeah, you know what? But Seattle, for some reason, they don't hit well at home. They don't. They hit they get 4 runs a game, but outside of Seattle, they get like 6 runs a game. Yeah, let's forget that. That's why the number 7.5. They just don't hit it. Hey, Luke. What's going on today? Well, we got Mark McGuire, and we've got gold and silver. I've already talked about, but I can talk about it some more. Gold sitting about 33.50, 33.55, but it's not going down, so it'll break out soon. And then silver, I think they're on their last leg of trying to cut it down. And then silver, it's 38, 30, 38.40. So we're just not getting. We're breaking out, but they're holding on a little bit. But I think we'll get. I don't think it's as easy as it breaks 38, it goes to 50. I think it should have, but I think as it gets to 37, they start defending it, and then it goes to 38. Again, Mark McGuire is on with Alligator, so we'll talk about that. Seems like a breakout is coming soon, another one. Yeah, well, I mean, it's still the game. We're still waiting on the physical market to take hold. We still keep getting the paper market, right? Let me just finish up the baseball, and then we'll get to the economics. So here's the picks today. Boston on a 10-game winning streak. We're going to take them for 2 units. San Diego, I believe we're betting against Washington for 2 units. KC, 2 units. St. Louis over 9, 2 units. And Milwaukee, who's on a 7-game winning streak, we're taking 2 units. We're not going to bet against Detroit. They're playing Texas, but if they lose, we'll be jumping on Texas the next 2 games, especially when DeGrom pitches. And we're not betting against Tampa because we don't like the pitcher who they're facing. That's what we have. So it's 5 games. And again, you got to be careful. They're starting new. It's like, what it's like? It's like blackjack, right? And they just shuffled the shoe. And there's 6 decks, but they just shuffled. They're just starting. So you want to see how the deck's coming out. So you can't really card count because you don't know the cards yet. That's kind of what it is after the All-Star break. And again, it just shows you how bad these All-Stars are, how weak the league is, how inconsistent it is. So we've got to take all that into consideration. So that's baseball. Back to Luke. Seems like a break. Yeah, the breakout should be coming. Well, let's see what gold's doing. Gold 33.54, silver 38.27. So we're in good stead. It's just funny the way this works. Some days Europe's down, the US is down, and then some days look at Europe from 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock. It was up a little bit of a short at 10. I'm surprised the US didn't go higher. who knows what's happening with the U.S. that you'd think they'd want to buy gold. So that's probably why the price isn't moving. All the BRICS countries are buying gold hand over fist, especially you now have 44 countries in BRICS. I know it's officially 20, but there's another 20 that have applied, so they know they need gold. It's already coming out with the gold-backed currency. Putin announced it. It's already coming out where they're trading without dollars, which is killing the dollar. And the most important thing you need to know is this is worthless and this is worthless. This is the most important thing to know. This has no value. This has no value. Your only option is the gold and the silver. Copper's starting to, it's like $4, $5. What do you call it? An ounce. It technically is money, but gold's the first money. That's the king. And then silver's the queen. Copper, I guess, is the jack. So I'm not getting into copper and waiting for that to go. I got enough with the gold and the silver, but mostly the gold. And it's just the risk is holding it. The risk is that there's a lot of countries that are about to go out, and the defense contractors, that's the last act. The U.S. knows they're in trouble. They are trying to sell weapons to try to stimulate the economy. It's the stupidest thing. It will never work, but that's what the CIA says, because I heard some guy from the CIA, some long-haired guy, say that's their strategy, is they try to get you to buy the weapons, the defense, and in doing that, you stimulate the economy, and then you sell the goods. Well, first of all, does Europe really have the money to? Does this make sense? I'm going to buy the defense contractors. I'm going to buy it, and then when I buy it, I'm going to. After I buy it, I'm going to give it to the Ukraine. So wait a minute, you're going to spend like $50 billion on something and give it away? And what do you get for it? What's the Ukraine giving you for it? Nothing, because they don't have anything. So that's what's really strange, is they're going to buy it and give it to the Ukraine and get nothing back for it. You're going to spend all that money that you don't have, because keep in mind, Europe is broke also. I was just watching it, and Luke, we're very lucky we're not in Barcelona now. They're having like the Middle East people kind of riot there, and I don't know how safe it is on some of the streets. Barcelona and France are there's these Middle East uprisings, and the Muslims, and I don't know what the hell they're doing. Obviously, George Soros is behind it, so it's not really that safe there. God knows Germany, that's you don't need help from them. They have riots. So again, where are you vacationing? I'll go to Turkey. I hope that's safe, but I don't know. It's really tough. As I said, Daria's daughter came home. So she's still a little bit wobbly, so we'll see. But we'll celebrate her birthday and cheer her up there. I've been reading more speculation that there's going to be an overnight revaluation of gold to 15,000, 20,000. It wouldn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise me if silver goes to $200, $300 overnight also. Now, what's happening is the demand's huge, as we know, but the price isn't going with it. Why isn't the price moving up? Everybody in BRICS is buying gold hand over fist. You've got China now with 70,000 tons because the people are buying gold, even though the government is kind of stealing it. I wouldn't trust China. I certainly wouldn't trust the banks here. I won't trust them in China. And so we'll have to see about that. But 70,000 tons, Russia with 20, India with 30, Saudi with 30. Who knows what South Africa has, Brazil. And, then you got Dubai, I'm sure has a lot. They're all picking up and buying and buying and buying. One, because they want to strengthen their hold, because their trade's going to be in gold-backed currency. And two, to weaken the U.S. let's face it, everybody hates the bully. We hate the bullies in the U.S. With Trump. Trump sounds like an idiot. But I heard from the general MacArthur or McGregor that Trump in real life is a bully when he's on stage, but when he's behind the stage and in a closed door, he's really quite shy and like a 5-year-old. He needs the validation. He needs the approval. He's one of these guys that needs the likes on Twitter or something. And so this is what we're dealing with. This guy's a 5-year-old. He's a baby. So he'll do his tariffs is all for theater. But behind the scenes, he's, oh, Putin, I didn't mean it. No, I hope you still like me. I hope we're still friends. But I agree with you, Luke. I don't know if they're all buying gold and nobody's selling it. I guarantee you, how the hell is the price being manipulated still? Because the whole manipulation is going to end. So I'm going to show you Mark McGwire. Mark McGwire has Alistair McLeod on as his guest today, and he's a little bit more talking. I have sent text to him in his comments. I said, we really watch to see you. I don't really give a shit about your guests. I tune in to see you, Mark McGwire. And so when the guest is on, why aren't you talking? Why are you just letting the guest talk? Nobody wants to hear that. If I want to hear these other guests, if I want to hear Andy Schectman, I'll go to this Andy Schectman channel and listen to his bullshit. So I don't really, I come to see you. So today he was much more interjections with Mark McGwire, with Alligator. So pretty good. I'll show you that. But I agree with you, Luke. I believe it's just going to be boom. It's just going to go crazy. I think we'll wake up and like you said, I can see it at least conservatively being $5,000, maybe 10 grand. Maybe it goes right to 10. And silver, I think we wake up and it's $100. And they basically, it's Russia, China ending COMEX because they won't be able to deliver the gold and silver, because now these contracts, it's Basel III. China and Russia ask for delivery on these options. They have to deliver the gold. They can't say, well, we're not, because then they'll just say, well, we're not going to use you anymore and just get rid of COMEX. And that we're very close to that. They can't just keep doing what they've been doing. Like I say, it's like Madoff, and the similarity between Madoff and COMEX is amazingly the same. Madoff went broke when everybody wanted their money, and he couldn't get people in because of the 2008 housing market. It's a housing crisis. It's not a financial crisis. So when people couldn't afford it, the stocks are dropping. They all needed money, so they couldn't give Madoff money, and everybody who was in it took it out. Well, that's the same thing with COMEX. COMEX is playing this paper game between London and New York, and they're just, I'll sell, you buy, I'll buy, you sell, and it's all paper, and they're making money. And the Ponzi scheme doesn't work when somebody asks for the actual physical gold. So they don't have it, right? They have a little bit of physical. So once people start taking the physical out of COMEX, then the game ends, because now they can't just do it without physical. One guy sells, one guy buys. Well, that's gone now, because they're saying, I want the gold, I want the silver. Well, that's not part of the game. So it's the same thing as Madoff. The Ponzi scheme ends when people take the gold out. Then they can't do the Ponzi scheme. Yesterday we did talk football. I went through week 1 again. Basically just going through what's happening. I've been watching the games on TV, on YouTube. They show the actual game now without the breaks. So in other words, you see Detroit played San Francisco, or Detroit played Washington in the playoff. You just see an hour of game. It's like, here's the play, here's the next play, here's the next play. So in an hour, you get the whole game, which is much better, because then you can see what happened. Now they cut some things short. There is some commercials, not too bad. So I've been watching that, and you can see. I watched the Baltimore Buffalo game, and you can see why Lamar loses and why. And Allen beat him. Allen can throw better. Lamar can't throw. But then you get Buffalo, Kansas City, and you can see why Kansas City beats the crap out of both of them. Because Mahomes runs for a first down. He hits the receiver at the end of the game. It was second and 5 with a minute left on the clock. What does he do? He throws a short little pass to the back, wide open, gets the first down. They're smart, but the plays they run, you can't stop. Against Baltimore, it's easier to cover Lamar than to cover Mahomes or Burrow or those guys like that. Even Brock Purdy, it's hard to cover Stafford, because they can actually throw the ball. So those teams, they did beat Buffalo. The Rams beat them like 44-42. Then they put up 40 against the Lions, and they were saying how, oh, look, they did that. I watched that game too, Buffalo, Detroit. And, Detroit blames a lot on the injuries. It's just bullshit. They could have had Hutchinson and everybody else. They weren't doing because the offense chokes. Goff chokes. The Lions are really, they like to hand the ball up the middle. They hand it off on first down. Second down, depending on what they get, hand off again. They then do play action, and they do a lot of misdirection where they'll start going to the right. The receiver or somebody comes across, they give him the ball, and he's going left, and everybody else is going right. So can the new offensive coordinator do that? Is that still going to work? We'll see. You don't have the center who was an incremental part of it. So we'll see what they look like this year. But it's a lot of they're actually a pretty good running team with their offensive line and their running backs, and they feed everything off of that. Then the play action, and they throw it a lot to St. Thomas, and Philadelphia just runs it down your throat with Barkley. Jalen Hurts is not an elite quarterback. I'm sorry, but the coach is out of his fucking mind. But what's he going to say? Because it's his quarterback. But he's not. Without Barkley, they didn't do shit. It's with Barkley, he's an elite quarterback. Sort of like Brock Purdy. He's got McCaffrey. He's an elite quarterback. But so is Goff with St. Thomas and whoever the Alabama running back is, and Montgomery from Iowa State. He's an elite quarterback. But without him, he sucks. And that's what happened at the Rams. So that's why you need the full complement. Bo Nix is good, but if they bring in if the running back from Notre Dame plays better this year, you brought in some receivers for him, Bo Nix will be elite. Penix is elite without anything. He's elite. Mahomes is elite. Joe Burrow is elite. Josh Allen does too much running. He's got Cook. Let him run. He hasn't figured that out. He wants to run too much. But then I'm looking at the fourth down bullshit, and you got Philly doing the push tush, where on 4th and 1 they're running a play that you can't stop. Then you got Josh Allen doing the same thing in Buffalo, and then you realize, wait, these fourth down stats are bullshit. They're Philly and Buffalo running these plays that you can't stop, so that makes it like, oh, look, these teams are going 4th down. Look how good they are. How about the regular team? How are the Bears doing on 4th down? Oh, yeah, they're 0-8. Washington was 8-8. Detroit does a lot, but they don't have that play that Buffalo and Philly do. So that's where you got the stats are skewed. 2 teams running plays you can't stop, and you say, oh, look at 4th down. Look how good it is. It's a bunch of bullshit. So keep that in mind. All right, so we got gold 33.55, silver 38.23. So I agree. Luke, I'm still not sure about Vegas. I looked at the Tuscany. I know where you're staying, and it's still the resort fee. It's $35 a night, but the resort fee. So I looked like going Tuesday, and coming back, I think Saturday or Wednesday to Saturday. And, okay, I can pay another 100 for the carry my bag on, but maybe if I can find a hotel without a resort fee. But the resort fee really kills it because it's like, the Tuscany's a little 3-star, should be $40, $50 a night, ends up being $100 a night because of the resort fee. So it really turns me off. But I do want to come, Luke. I appreciate the opportunity, but I don't know. I'll have to do a little more research today. It's fine. I can still book something for Wednesday. The hotel I'm not worried about. I could go there today and get a hotel. But thanks for the offer, and we'll see. If not now, we'll do it soon. Now that Daria's daughter's home, I'm hoping to meet her soon. We'll see. Maybe I'll target September. But I don't really, if gold hits 15,000 an ounce, yeah, I'll be there. So we will see. But that's why I'm just being careful with my gold and silver, waiting until it explodes. And then, I can cash in one and get all that. But that's our plan. And we know you can't hold the dollars, because if you hold the dollars, they're losing value. All right, let's listen to, let's see who we're going to listen to Douglas McGregor first, and then Alligator. There's one, if you want to watch our doctor on, you cannot heal your kidney if. So it's fine to drink the water. You don't want to drink the pop or the sugar or, the normal foods we're not supposed to eat. We don't eat. He keeps repeating it. Obviously, you'll have a clean liver and a clean kidney if you just eat the way you're supposed to eat. No sugars and no carbs and a lot of meats and a lot of veggies, and drink your water and your tea, and you're fine. It'll cure everything. And throw in a little fast. Like I said, a couple of weeks ago, I did a 70-hour fast, and that was it. So that's really for health purposes. I'm not trying to lose weight with it, but I know I will. And if I'm a little heavy, I will do the fast. But it's really to clean me, and it cleans out the bad cells, and it gets rid of some of the fat, and I feel much better after it. So that's why I do the fast, probably now once a quarter. And, it's weird. I just wake up. I woke up last Monday, not 2 weeks ago, and I ate Sunday. And Monday I woke up, said, I'm not eating today. And I didn't eat. And I didn't eat Monday. I drank a lot. And then it was Tuesday, and I was going to eat Tuesday for dinner. And when I got near 5 o'clock, I said, you know what? I don't need to eat now. Let's go another day. And so that's what I did. And I'll tell you, Wednesday, I didn't need to eat then. I could have easily not eaten dinner Wednesday and went 96 hours. But I felt I had done enough. But yeah. And I can tell the difference. My stomach's a little flatter, and once in a while my sides get a little bit of fat on them, and that makes me uncomfortable because I don't want the diabetes and the high blood pressure and everything. So we'll see from there. But that's what we'll do. So anyway, that's what's happening. So I do that. All right. Who profits from the war? The defense contractors, as we know. The defense contractors should all be eliminated. There should not be lobbyists. This is the problem with the government, because the government works for the lobbyists, not for the people. The whole point of the government is fucked up now. The lobbyists pay, and then they got to deliver. Oh, we want a war because we want to sell our weapons, and all the senators and Mitch McConnell and all these other idiots who you should be one term is what it was initially set up for. You're in office one term. That way you can't kick the can down the road. You got to get it done. You got to fix the problem. And same thing with Trump. He's limited to 2 terms, but this is his second. God knows who will be the next president. Well, hopefully the war ends and I can move to Russia or somewhere. Anyway, that's what we want to do. And that's what's going on. So keep trying that. All right, let's listen to Douglas McGregor for a few minutes. It's misleading. He says 8 days to nuclear war, but we have an 8-day supply of missiles if we're invaded or if we got to give them out. So it's just bullshit. We'll listen to about 5 minutes of this.
Big news. Y-line is now in your area. Get symmetrical.
Iranians doesn't. Look, why are we doing what we're doing in Somalia? Somalia is this basket case that has had Al-Shabaab and ISIS-related entities in it, as have several other African countries. Now we've been booted out of most of Central and West Africa, where we had a substantial presence, but we're still in Somalia and presumably welcomed by the government, which is partially subsidized by us. And so we are at will to pick targets or to take nominations, I guess, from our friends in the Somali government regarding who out there deserves to die. Now, if you're going to ask me, does this make sense? Is this part of a coherent strategy? Is this making us any safer? I have no idea. It's one of these things, you do it because you can, and you're dealing with people that have no air defense weaponry, no capacity to detect you and fire at you. It really doesn't drain us in terms of weapons, because we're using precision-guided bombs, no doubt, but we're not using the more expensive missiles that are so vital to operations as we saw in the 12-week war with Iran. So, that's the best answer I could give you on that one.
Now, if I may,
sure.
You have been an advisor to Secretary of Defense in the past, so can the U.S. military handle this many wars? Can any organization do this with any type of measurable success?
Well, we are at war with Iran. President Trump made us a co-belligerent, but at the moment, we're not shooting at them. And as far as I know, they're not shooting at us. In Ukraine, we are effectively a co-belligerent, and we're at war with Russia. But Russia has chosen to exercise restraint and not counterattack us. So to answer your question, if these things were to grow hot tomorrow morning, you'd be right. We'd be very overstretched. In fact, a good friend of mine who's familiar with the missile inventories, who's still working for the Department of Defense, said we have about 8 days worth of missiles. I said, so what does that mean? He said, well, the conventional war, if we fight it against the Russians, Chinese, Iranians, doesn't matter anywhere, can last 8 days. After that, we have to go nuclear. I said, oh, you're kidding. He said, no, that's the truth. So to answer your question right now, yes, you can get away with a lot of things because it's tertiary, but it could rapidly become overwhelming overnight. And you're right to make that point, Natalie.
8 days.
8 days.
Until nuclear.
Yeah.
8 days to nuke. Okay.
I want to show you what happened over the past few hours in Damascus, Syria. Of course, we are providing bombs to Israel, of course, and coordinating with them. They're not doing anything on their own without direct involvement, I would think, from the United States.
I wouldn't bet on
downtown. Let me just show you some video here, Colonel, and I'm sure you've seen it. Downtown Damascus, Syria today, live on television, bombing of their defense industry, defense buildings. Watch.
Whoops, I better leave.
Don't worry, Benjamin Netanyahu says we're going after the bad guys. So this is all good news. Colonel, what do you make of what's happening in Syria?
Well, there are a number of things going on. First, you have the Druze, who've had their conflicts with the Sunni Muslim Arabs that are in the government now, the sort of rebranded ISIS/Al-Qaeda types. And Israel said that it was going to strike in support of the Druze, which is, as far as we're concerned, that's fine. Now they suddenly attacked the defense ministry. People trying to figure out what's going on there. There are various theories because we have a very definite conflict underway between the Israelis and the Turks. It's not a hot conflict, it's a cold one. But some people are theorizing that striking that defense ministry was a message sent to Mr. Erdogan and the Turks. You've got this fragile pact, if you will, between the Turks and the Israelis, that they're going to sort of jointly administer what's left of the region. The Turks want control of most of Syria. The Israelis want some of the south. The Turks don't agree with that. The government in Damascus has now said they want northern Lebanon to be annexed to Syria. And I suspect that they're looking to eventually seize control of the area where the Russians sit. The Turks are in favor of this as long as it doesn't result in war with Russia. You know, this is what happens when you unhinge the region. And we've been working tirelessly for years, certainly for at least 15, to bring down Assad, destroy that country, which we've done, and to bring a government to power that we thought we could control. Well, I don't think we can, despite Mr. Trump's visit and telling everyone that Mr. Jelani, the former Al-Qaeda/ISIS terrorist, is really a very fine young man and a very smart guy.
You know, it's also convenient too. I mean, we'll put this up here on the screen. This was all happening inside of Israel. This bombing happened right as Netanyahu was sitting in trial, but it was convenient. The trial got adjourned.
All right, enough of this bullshit. Let's go to Mark McGuire. So Mark's guest today's alligator.
Until now, game changer. They have a wire trimming head that's universal. It's going to fit any kid right away.
Okay, this is the end game for fiat currencies. So we'll go to global debt spiral.
We know the situation in Japan. I mean, the debt to GDP is just, I don't know, 260% or something. In America, it's what, 120%, 1,520%. Canada is another one. If you look at Europe, France is, that's a mess. They can't cut anything. I mean, they had Russ when they tried to sort of raise the retirement age just a little bit.
Yes.
And Spain has gone far left. I mean, even Germany is taking the brakes off the debt limit. So all these countries are in deep, dire doo-doo. I mean, it's really...
So all these countries are bankrupt. To put it in English, you have large debt, you're bankrupt, right? If we owed $500,000 on our credit cards, we are bankrupt. We can't pay them off. So this is the Keynesian model. We just keep printing money, thinking, oh, we can just keep printing money. But this is what happens. The money loses value. The debt goes up. You can't pay it off. People get unemployed. The economy blows up and you're fucked. And your only out is gold and silver. Why they don't use gold and silver backed currencies? Because George Soros doesn't want them to, because he wants them to collapse.
This is actually a very, very unpleasant situation for all Western nations.
And I think the beauty of this was in the sense that this provides a window into the bigger picture. And for all those people think, oh, well, this is UK centric. Oh, sorry. But I mean, this is why I think I wanted you to sort of talk about it and how this debt trap leads into the bigger picture, credit bubbles, all of these things that you are all over, and you have been for this whole year and previous years, but this whole year, and how that is now unfolding. So yeah, and you also mentioned Trump's tariffs and the implications of how that supply chains are all threatened now. I mean, this is a bad situation, is it not?
Yes, it is. And with respect to the tariff situation, I saw a chart, I think it was in the Telegraph this morning, which showed that the level of tariffs are now higher than they were at the time of smooth hauling. We've just completely
That's 1929
progress towards free trade. But of course, I mean, we don't actually know the figures because Trump keeps on changing the the narrative. And I mean, he's obviously not getting the agreements in on time, so he's sort of extending it, and sort of, and throwing out things like, we're going to tax copper 50%, import copper, come on. This is economically destructive. It really is. And at the same time, he produces this big, beautiful, wonderful bill, another 3+ trillion of spending. I mean, the man's a spendthrift. And at the same time, he's telling the world that the dollar should be lower, and interest rates should be lower, and Jay Powell should be sacked because he's asleep at the wheel. This is thoroughly irresponsible, particularly when you bear in mind that foreigners own just a short, this is according to Treasury TIC figures, just a short $40 trillion and underlying deposits and investments.
So once the foreigners, which are Europe and the UK and China and Japan, they're in a safe haven there. But once they take that 40 trillion out of the stock market and out of the banks, it collapses because the stock needs a buyer and a seller. Well, if they're all sellers, the price goes down. So once they start doing that, that's reason one, the stock market's going to collapse and the banks are going to collapse. Then when they try to pay, the other thing is the cars and the houses and everybody else can't afford it. And the banks have to cover these derivative options in gold and silver, they're going to collapse. And this 40 million is also in banks. It's money in banks, in deposits and mutual funds and money markets. So once they pull, there's a huge hole. That's the biggest reason the stock market will collapse. Plus the fact that the economy will crash, which means that why would you own stock? Which is why I'm amazed that the stock market's 44,000. It should, this is the Titanic. Everybody's on the Titanic and we've hit the hole in the boat and everybody's like, hey, I'm going to go on the lounge and sit and watch the sunset as we go down, but I won't notice it until it's 90% in the water. Then I'll realize we're sinking. And this is what's happening. The Titanic's going down and everybody's sitting, give me a martini and let's go play poker, and nobody's understanding the boat sinking. And this is the hardest thing for people like us to explain to people. You got to get out of the dollar. You got to get into gold and silver. Oh, what's wrong with the dollar? Look at 2008. Look at 2000. We survived. We'll survive again. No, you won't. This is finally, you've kicked the can down the road, and finally everybody else, and mostly BRICS, with the gold-backed currency, is making the dollar collapse. So keep that in mind. So anyway, $40 trillion going to be pulled out, and that's got to have a massive effect on our stocks, on our banks, everything. All right.
So what do they do? I mean, already you've seen the dollar go down, and I mean, the chart looks terrible. So, we don't need to talk about fundamentals. But from a foreigner's point of view, he might be doing quite well on his Nvidia, which is now worth 4 trillion or something, capitalization. But apart from the odd spot like that, his 15 trillion in equities, his holdings of US government debt and agency debt and corporate debt and deposits, he's losing on the whole lot. What does he do? I mean, a foreigner's risk-free position is to get into his own currency because that's what he accounts in. That's what his profits are rendered in. If you're in a foreign currency, you have got risk. And I think this is the point which just doesn't seem to be fully understood. Now, having said that, I think the Fed and the US Treasury are waking up to the facts. They understand this. What the Fed is now trying to do is to remove the supplementary leverage ratio on the big banks, which were imposed on those big banks in addition to Basel III to try and reduce the amount of risk from banking failures in the economy. They've now turned around and said, well, of course, if we can reduce that supplementary leverage ratio, then it frees up banks to create credit to invest in treasuries. That's going to happen. But they're not going to buy anything out along the yield curve. The only things they will buy are T-bills. 3 months, 6 months, a year. Most of it, I would have thought 3 and 6 months. So what does that mean as far as the treasury market is concerned? Well, it means that the average maturity, if you like, across the whole of the treasury market is shortening, which means more and more of it has to be rolled over every year. So, we don't know how long it's going to take for this funding crisis really to hit. But if the funding crisis hits in the dollar, you can forget every other currency, because the dollar is the king rat of currencies. At the moment the dollar is going down, I think there's going to be a switch in that, because dollar goes down, you'll probably find that something is said which stabilizes it a little bit, and then you'll see sterling going down, and you'll see some traders coming out of euros as well. So, there will be swings and roundabouts in this, Andy. But I think that we're in a crisis, and of course, the other thing that so few people understand is the role of gold in this. I mean, it's not, gold is real money. It is actually in Roman law called a corporeal asset, whereas credit, which is everything else, including currencies, is incorporeal, and you cannot cross that divide. It's actually fixed. This is the way it is in our laws, and also in our logic too. Gold has no counterparty risk.
Can't be inflated.
Credit is a promise to pay at some stage in the future. It's something that doesn't exist, except, if you like, on a balance sheet. So it is incorporeal. The two things are completely different. So from the point of view of a foreign central bank with reserves, of course what they do is they're selling dollars. They're reducing the incorporeal element on their reserves. It's not so much they're buying gold, they're just getting the hell out of credit. That's what it is.
Well, I always argue this point. They are buying gold, and you use dollars to buy the gold. If we know gold's going to go up, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, they're really not buying gold, they're selling dollars, but they're using the dollars to buy the gold. So, yeah, I mean, you got to buy the gold with something, and the only thing you can buy it with are the dollars or your credit card, but it's still dollars. All right. I always hate when Alligator does this. A little bit
and
more.
I think, you mentioned, sort of quarters, sort of apposite from a timing point of view that I'm back on. I think really what we're likely to see is an acceleration of the deteriorating position of credit over the rest of this year compared to where it was earlier this year. It doesn't look good to me, I'm afraid, as far as credit is concerned. And the other thing which everybody got wrong, and that is interest rates should not fall. Now, I can't say that the Fed and other central banks won't reduce interest rates, but they would be stupid to do so, because all they do is they undermine the value of their currency. It's not going to help the funding at all. If anything, when you've got greater risk in credit, then bond yields, the coupons, the interest rate on that credit has got to rise to reflect that risk. It must do. Otherwise, nobody buys it. So, yeah, not good.
And the thing is that, as we've spoken about before, a lot of the people that are blinkered and chasing risk assets with ignoring all of these factors because they were never around when there was a previous crisis. Now, I still remember, and I know you do, Alistair, when in the 80s, I mean, when we had the last sterling crisis, for example, and I remember interest rates in the teens. And I remember in Gloucester, near where I was or am, an entire divisions, housing divisions, where there were professional people, school teachers, etc., who couldn't pay their mortgage anymore. And the banks were loath to repossess because it would have meant marking it to market. And the whole derivative chain would have imploded. And speaking of derivatives, and I know we've spoken about this before, I mean, these interconnected derivatives, and that's form into gold as well, and they touch everything. I mean, could be 2 quadrillion. It could be, I mean, who knows what these numbers are? You lose track. When you start to talk about quadrillions, it's hard to even...
That's what Egon says, 2 quadrillion.
But we've been through these situations before. And when you see people barreling on and to ignore something as serious as what you just talked about, and the result of that will affect everybody.
I think that's right. I mean, there's an unwarranted, if you like, confidence in the ability of government to manage a crisis, keep everything on an even keel. I mean, look what happened in 2008-9. You know, okay, there was a little bit of disruption, but we sailed through it. We're here. We've got a wonderful bull market, and isn't it great? And we're all getting wealthier. Yeah. I mean, what that ignores is another theme that I've been banging on about, which I think is desperately important, and that is the cycle of credit. I think it's quite difficult if you're in markets to really realize that you're in a credit bubble. The way to look at it is that because for every credit there is a debt, you've got an obligation for every credit, okay? We're in a debt bubble. Now that is unarguable. I mean, not just government, but also households, everything else. We are in a debt and therefore credit bubble. This was exactly the situation in the late 1920s. And that was followed by Wall Street crash. Wall Street peaked out in September 1929 and lost roughly 90% of its value by the middle of 1932. And the other thing, which
1930
rhymes with today, is Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, 1930. That actually was passed to, it was passed through Congress before the market peaked. I don't think it was taken all that seriously. It was then endorsed by the Senate in early 1930. And a month or two later was signed into law by President Hoover. And I mean, the moment he signed it into law, everybody thought, oh my God, what's going to happen? And of course, you found that country after country said, well, if you're going to tariff us, we'll tariff you. Tit for tat. And it meant that industry, in terms of its manufacturing, was having to pay more. By the way, what's my imported coppers going to cost? Which, is Trump's latest wheeze. 50% tariff. I mean, it's ruinous for American industry.
Yeah.
And we've got exactly the same thing today. And this is why it's so important. That little chart, they say, well, this time of year is always quiet. You can sort of market
talking silver now,
that and all the rest of it, but forget it. Nobody's interested. And that's where we are. So this is why you sell in May and go away. It's not necessarily because the market's going to collapse. You sell in May and go away because nothing's going to happen until you come back in August, late August, early September. And I think we've got the same syndrome now. But this situation is so stretched that I don't think that it can go much beyond the, if you like, the later stages of this summer. It is so stretched. And interestingly, Andy, from the point of view looking at what's going on in precious metals, gold is just moving sideways. Silver's got a nice bid under it, actually. I mean, it really feels firm. And I look forward to your market analysis on this. But if you look at both those precious metals, they should be coming off in the summer months, basically, because the establishment will want some cheap stock or to mark to market on their shorts or whatever it might be. It could happen yet, but there's no sign of it. I mean, it's just remarkably firm. And I just get the feeling that anything coming into the market is just taken. So over to you on the market.
Again, silver provides a window.
See, I like how Mark McGuire is interacting more. I've left him messages saying, we want to see you. So Alligator does his thing, and then Mark's kind of bringing up his point. So it's more of it's more two guys talking economics than just Alligator talking and Mark sitting and going, because we want to hear Mark. So this is probably his best video with the guest because he is interacting and putting in his 2 cents.
It's obviously gold is much more complex to follow, and the footprints are much easier to read. But the thing is, I think that, and you know, we were talking about 35 resistance. Now that's become support. And in fact, even 36 looks like support. So why is that? I think what it is that personally, I believe this, and we track our liquidity providers in Asia, and what it's happened, I think that silver has a sufficient open interest, or let's just say the sufficient COMEX open interest and LBMA open interest that has now escaped into the physical markets. I think it's jumped the ring fence. I think they're having very, very much trouble in keeping silver down. And I think it's almost, and to me now, that kind of raises, you mentioned 2020. If we look at gold in 2020, we had 800,000 contracts of open interest. And I know you follow this closely. Now we're around half of that, maybe a bit over half of that. And some of that is momentum short positions. So, and yet, as you know, the gold price continues higher without that open interest. So I think what we're seeing in silver, it's, I believe, jumped sufficiently out of their tentacles, of their control, for the price to be determined in the physical markets where you have to own something before you can even sell it. So now I think the same thing is about to happen in gold. We're seeing that open interest really dwindling. We see it evaporating. Where's it going? It's not evaporating. It's a finite equation. Where is it going? It's going into the physical markets. So then you've got the unwind of leverage, hence the price increase. So I think that silver is providing the key to what we're seeing in gold, which is it is going to also exit itself from the controls of the LBMA CME, who have been sitting on that between them for 50 odd years. And I think when the physical markets are being determined somewhere else, and you can try and delay Basel III all you want in the US, all that's going to happen is you don't adhere to that. You continue to play paper games. But when the liquidity has flowed out into the physical markets, and they turn around and just simply say, give it to us then. And then essentially, unless the COMEX ultimately becomes equally Basel III compliant, every ounce is going to vanish.
That's interesting. The other thing I did notice is that...
Just will comment. See, that's what we've been waiting for. And when you tell your people, hey, it's time for gold and silver to go, you bring up Basel III, you bring up BRICS. BRICS is the key that's changing it. That's the difference in variable. And that's why we're shouting to go buy gold and silver. It's not the same as the last 50 years. Changes happen. BRICS has happened. China, Russia, Basel III's now happened. That's where we're getting to a physical market, which we know is 10 times higher than the paper crap. This is why we're saying to buy it, and we know it's going up. This is not a guess. Well, maybe, or, like stocks, well, maybe it'll go up. But this is not a guess. You can see what's happening. You can see BRICS. China's got 70,000 tons of gold. It's going up, and they're buying as much as they can, all they can eat. And Russia and and then the new BRICS countries, there's 44. Buy. And that's what happens. And that's where we're at with it. That's why it's breaking up. That's why the price is going to go up. And it's not, it's for sure because we see what's happening with BRICS and we see our dollar collapsing because we understand inflation kills the value of the dollar because it's printing. The more printed, the less it's worth. The dollar has no value. That's why it's going up even without these whatever Mark McGuire called it. I'm not into those COMEX terms, but these contracts. So even though they're still $400,000 contract, it's because everybody's getting out of dollars and going into gold, maybe without the contracts, or I'm not really sure, but they're driving the price up because of demand. And that's what it is. And it's not the dollar going down and the gold going up. The gold's going up because of the demand. The dollar can't go down anymore because it's 100% gone. There is no value of the dollar. Yeah, we can go buy steaks for $20 a pound, or I can get my ribs at $14.99 a pound, but that's really just bullshit. They just need a marker to price things, but the dollar has no value. That's crazy. All right.
In 2023, China exported an awful lot of silver, and to my mind, was suppressing the market. The thing that was interesting is that amongst the largest takers of this silver were places like Hong Kong, Singapore, and London, which I would regard as predominantly financial centers rather than photovoltaic manufacturers. Last year, 2024, these financial centers dropped off. There was still a sort of net export from China. I mean, there's no doubt China, in my view, has accumulated an awful lot of silver. It's been stockpiling it over the years, so it's been controlling the market. But I suspect that's changing. And the thing that's interesting is that perhaps with a very quiet change of policy, I mean, we've seen it with rare earths, very good example. But we're now finding that, silver, platinum, and so on, I mean, suddenly there's a behavior going on there which we're not all that familiar with. Your comments, please.
I honestly believe that's because the price of the physical metal is being determined in a physical exchange, and it's literally. And then you've got the paper open interest, literally exiting to where a real market. Now, for example, if I'm a producer and I've been financed by the LBMA, and this brings to mind Citi's call for $2,600 gold. And we know, and I'm absolutely certain of this, that they were forcing producers to sell forward based on the fact that they said, well, we think the treasuries, the stock markets are going to do well. The US is going to boom. Interest rates are coming down. This is their comment. This is their comment, and so therefore, with all of that in mind, gold's going to lose $600 by 2026, and even as much as yesterday, the head of UBS was out there talking about that. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. So they force, and I think the real point I'm trying to make here is they finance a number of producers. Now, if you finance that producer and you tell him to hedge a position and you sell it forward,
it's the bank
going to take the long side. You've robbed them unnecessarily, because there's no way that with the physical markets exploding elsewhere, being set elsewhere, and them losing control. I really strongly believe that them forcing the producer that you finance, because if you withdraw his banking, his business goes down. So it's a debanking situation. So as far as gold's concerned, I think that is also, I think that game, if I'm a producer, why would I want to be financed by a predatory, after being treated like that? I would much rather take my financing from China. I'll take an ownership position. Let them take an ownership position. We'll do much what the BRICS is trying to do. Take the barriers down and sit at the same side of the table, and we'll all make some money. So to me, I think that's happening.
That's a very, very good point. And also, of course, the rise in gold price means that cash flow pressures on mines are not as great as they were. So, I think that, the Citicorps and the UBSs from manufacturers have been given two fingers, basically, I think.
Yeah.
I think what you say is very interesting. There is another aspect to this which I want to explore a little bit with you. We had an announcement, I think it was sort of, monthly commentary coming out of the ECB about what had happened earlier this year with, the premiums on COMEX and how it sucked in bullion and all the rest of it. And it was quite an interesting article the way it was written, because it was actually trying not to say too much to upset the markets, if you like. That's the feeling I got. But the one thing they said, the reason that we're worried about this is that Eurozone institutions, their derivatives position in gold have increased 58% compared with the previous quarter, or compared with, I don't know, previous quarter, the previous year, whatever. Now, this is interesting because tied with this, they mentioned the stands for delivery. Now, I haven't seen anyone else talk about this. I've been talking about it for some time, and we've talked about it together. But I thought I'd run some numbers on this. I mean, the stands for delivery are very important. I mean, basically, my hypothesis is that when it became possible that Trump was going to introduce flat 25% tariffs on all commodities, all imports, the whole lot, the problem for COMEX, operators in COMEX, is that they had stand for delivery obligations. And these stand for delivery obligations were accelerated. Now, nobody really notices this, but they are absolutely huge. Now, I know that the exchange for physical are even greater, but we don't know whether that's one way or the other way. It can be both.
All right, so let's talk about that. What does stand for delivery? So in the option game, Eddie Murphy, he's selling the frozen orange juice for $142, buying it at $42, sells it first, buys it. But if we flip it around, he bought it at $42, sold it at $142. The people he's buying it from say, I want to stand for delivery. I want to take the orange juice. So he has to actually give them orange juice, not the paper. So with the derivatives on gold and silver, the people are asking for delivery of the gold and silver, saying, no, I don't want the IOU. I want the physical. And there isn't any. It's all gone. So the U.S. and London have to go out and buy physical to pay for the people asking for delivery, i.e. the Chinese and the Russians saying, I want physical. And that's what they got to do. So now they got to go find it. They got to go into the market and pay them off. And that's the change. That's what Basel III does.
But, we've got hard evidence with stands for delivery. Interestingly, the Bank of England's vaults lost 14 million and 48,000 ounces between the end of October and the end of April. Yeah. On top of that, the LBMA lost a further 7.7 million for a total of 20,751,000 ounces.
Wow. Yeah, that's big.
Stands for delivery in that time. Interestingly, we're a bit over 22 million. 22 million and 36,500. Now, you can't necessarily say that these figures are meant to match, but you can see that you've got a problem on one side and you've got a problem on the other side. Now, part of the problem, of course, is that the stands for delivery have increased at a faster rate this year so far than they have in recent years.
That means nobody trusts the dollar. They all want gold. Just like we don't trust the dollar, we want gold. They don't trust the dollar. Plus, they're able to get it at this cheap COMEX price. That's why they still are using COMEX. The price is so cheap if they can get it. It's probably like this is 33.50 right now. It's probably 3,500 if you get it somewhere else. So that's why they want to keep using COMEX. But they don't want the dollar. They want the gold because the dollar is worthless. They get it. We get it.
I think I'm right to say that between 2021 and 24 stands for delivery. We're around about 2,100 tons. This year so far, we're running at the rate of an annualized 1,500 tons. So we're running at close to 4 times the rate. More, I suppose. Now, the interesting thing, and this is something which I think the ECB is actually worried about, is that all this stuff disappearing from London, how's it going to get back? Because the point about an arbitrage is you do one leg and then you do another leg. And what you might do is you might protect your position by, say, taking out an out-of-the-money call option, just in case the price rises too much. But if you've actually, say, taken 20% premium, which at one stage you could do by literally begging, borrowing, or stealing bullion from one centre and selling it into another centre, you've got to get it back because you've got the obligations from where you got it. And this is the interesting thing, because the Bank of England, as I say, you had leaching out from. We had 14 million and 48,000 ounces. Now, this is interesting because I don't believe that bullion banks and hedge funds, whatever, store much bullion in the Bank of England. It's predominantly central banks. Would you agree with that, or am I wrong?
No,
Okay.
You're right.
So what that means is that the system whereby the Bank of England turns around to a leasing central bank and says, "Don't worry, you'll earn 1%, whatever the figure is, and it'll pay for your storage costs, which is lovely. It's lovely for us, lovely for you, and we have a book entry transfer system. So the bullion stays here, and at the end of the lease, you'll be able to get it back. It's gone. It's gone." So what happens? I mean, put yourself in the position of a central bank. You say, "Well, I don't like this. Where's my gold?"
And the ECB, and to what you're talking about, they're absolutely right. The ECB Financial Stability Review, they put out a link to the report, a full report, a long report. But in summary, what they're saying, they were drawing attention to billions of unbacked, as they put it, unbacked, unallocated paper gold positions, and then they identified these, what you're talking about, foreign counterparty derivative exposure, that they said, well, there clearly has to be bought back into rising prices. So it is exactly what you're saying. So yes, when it comes to the end, that's what you're saying. You're going to have to buy it back at a higher price to repay it.
But it's worse than that. It's worse than that. The liquidity in the paper market is backed up by leasing and a rehypothecation of leases and all the rest of it. I would be very surprised if the central banking community are prepared to extend their leases anymore. I think they're saying, no, we're not doing this anymore. And some of them might indeed be saying, we want to store our own gold. Let's have it back. So this is fatal, really, for the paper market. And I suspect that the second half of this year, we're going to see this. Now, the problem you mentioned sort of wider quadrillions and all the rest of it. The problem, of course, for the derivatives market is that many of the actors in the bullion markets are also acting in other derivative markets. So if you've got counterparty risk escalating in bullion markets, then you've got counterparty risk escalating everywhere. And this is going to be actually, well, let's put it this way, as the Chinese would say, interesting.
Well, yes, because you're talking about a physical gold as a first tier high quality liquid asset. Absolutely. So ultimately, the rubber meets the road at some point. The derivative rubber meets that road at some point, because when you're there was a time when, as we know, you could just keep rolling this position over. And in fact, for forwards of less than 14 days, you don't even have to report to the office of the controller, and it just went on and on and on. But when somebody else is actually saying, hang on, I'll buy it at that price, and I have a client to buy it at that price, and I'm a central bank and I want to buy it at that price, then you're going to have this series of higher stair steps along the way, which are physically supported. They're not the paper market price anymore. And I think that is the process that, and you're talking about as the year rolls out. I think we'll see that this year. I think you're right that it's going to happen.
The other thing that's interesting in this is we've seen the gold price rising up close to all-time highs and so on and so forth. The amount of interest in the West is actually pretty low. You look at COMEX and you see, as you said earlier on, got 440,000 contracts open. I mean, this to me is sort of marginally oversold. I mean, how do you get something marginally oversold at the top of the market?
Yes.
There is another thing. It was sort of reported on Kitco, and I had some Australian friends who were asking me about this. The report that the average portfolio from the sort of people who've got a bit of money, and I think the definition when you delved into it were people who had over $100,000 up to $2 million, that sort of thing. I mean, sort of, if you like, the affluent middle classes, and they reckon that something, I think, between 11 and 12% of their portfolio was in gold or gold substitutes of one sort or another. Now, this is not our experience. So I dug into this a bit more. And in fact, it was an HSBC report which covered 12 different jurisdictions, only 4 of which were outside Asia. And the 4 basically were Australia, Canada, the US, and the UK. Now, we know that our exposure, US exposure, portfolio exposure is, square root of nothing, virtually. But what it does indicate is the level of interest in Asia in gold. And it's far higher than we think. This bull market, if you like, in Asian terms, has got a long way to go yet. Because, of course, if you look at China, the alternatives are not that attractive. I mean, the banks have reduced their interest rates, so deposit rates there are a waste of time. Property is a busted flush. Stock market is not everybody's flavor. Yet household savings amount to 35% of GDP. I mean, an extraordinary level of savings. This is going to gold. And we're talking about an annual flow of over $2 trillion.
So what all that means is demand. Demand for gold, demand for silver is huge. Therefore, the price goes up. Therefore, it's also very short supplied. There's 2 trillion tons of it, or 200,000 tons of gold is it. And silver is like 500,000 or something. That's it. So you have very limited supplies. You have huge demand. Price has to go up. And we're sitting here going, why isn't the price going up? And that's why we believe it's going to do what Luke said. And it's just going to get overnight revalued 15 to 20,000. Something like that. Something like that, I believe, because the demand's huge now, but why is the price sitting at 33.40, 33.20, 33.50? Same with silver. It finally hit 38, but why isn't it going up any higher? Nobody is selling silver. That's the problem with this bullshit Madoff COMEX, the paper pricing, because they're kind of control the price with the paper. So when that one idiot says, "Oh, it's a futures market," what's a futures market? Why do we need a futures market? Well, this is the price of gold in the future. It's not. It's the same bullshit price it is now. It's not a future price, and you don't need a future price on gold and silver. That's bullshit. I don't need a futures price on my Canadian club. What am I selling it for? $100? That's the price. Mantle card's what? $80,000 for a PSA 9. Okay, that's what it is. What's in the future? Well, I don't know. We'll see what the market says. Why do you need a futures price? That's bullshit. That's not necessary. All right, a few more minutes. Let's see, where are we at? 41. Let's jump to here.
And with respect to gold, I calculated that, all over the world, if you look at, I think we got something like $300 trillion worth of portfolios. How much gold is in them? It's less than 0.5%. Partly because gold itself is not a regulated asset.
So he's talking about ETFs and stocks. We don't care about that. We just care about physical. And I prefer to call it tons, not ounces, not how much dollars in it, because the dollar varies. But again, it's 200,000 tons of physical gold.
Compliance officer jumps down in your neck if you try and buy any. But they're not yet really piling into ETFs, which of course the compliance officer has got no problem with. So I think there's an awful long way to go from that point of view before we even start talking about, well, what's driving gold? The answer is that the purchasing power of our currency is going down. They are not there yet. They don't understand it. They really don't. I tell you, I've got an uphill struggle getting people to understand that it's credit going down, not gold going up.
Yeah.
Well, what he's trying to say is it's inflation. You're printing the money, making the money worthless. But gold's going up from demand. Gold's not going up because the dollar's going down. The dollar's already done. Gold going from 3,300 to 5,000 is not the dollar going down. It's the demand for gold pushing the price up. He seems to have a problem with that. He seems to think it only is the dollar dropping, but the dollar, how much value can it lose? It's down 99% of its value. How much more can it go down? So I don't buy that. Yes, it does take more dollars to buy the gold than it did in 71 when it was $35. Now it's 3,400. But that is gold. It's gold going up also because look at silver didn't go up. Why isn't silver at $1,000 an ounce? If gold's going up, but silver really isn't. He can't explain that because his theory's long. It's the dollar going down is A, gold going up is demand B, and the price fixing. Hey, Luke, would you see investment opportunities? Well, gold and silver. Once I see it, where else am I going to invest? If all the paper goes out, what do I want to be in? What are your opportunities? Stablecoin, I think, is a Ponzi scheme. I saw that yesterday, and I did the thing on what the stablecoin is. It's just a crypto, and they're tying it to the dollar, which is worthless, which is even stupider. So you have a stable coin. You're going to buy a stable coin? Can I use the stable coin at McDonald's? Not that I go to McDonald's. No, it's the same thing. Nobody will take Bitcoin. I can't use it at Toyota. I can't use it at the rib place. I can't use it at Kroger's. So what's a stable coin? What's the big deal about it? So I wouldn't call that an investment opportunity. Things where the dollar's going down. So I would say the real assets, your Manuel cards and your Brady cards and your Jordan cards, your Rolexes, your Felipe Alous or whatever these other from Focus. The guy had a $200,000 watch on. I never heard of it. Real assets are always the best to put investments. I don't agree with people who want to buy land. Land only goes up if there's demand for it. And if it's just sitting in the middle of a field, why would the price of land go up just because it's land? Now, if it's next to Caesar's Palace, yeah, you probably have a chance there. But if just you put it 20 miles out in the desert in Vegas, I don't think there's going to be demand for your land unless you happen to get lucky and then somebody wants to put a golf course up on. Otherwise, no, land is not the answer. We know real estate trusts, forget it. The housing market's going to crash. There's a whole problem with cars that they can't sell. So your cars are going down. I really don't, like I say, that's why I buy the cards as an investment, but it's mostly I want to buy more gold and silver and stop fucking around. I mean, that's the no-brainer. Just buy that and make money on it. You don't need to diversify. You're just, if it does what you say and it goes to 20,000, the more you have, the more you made, because you're paying $3,000 for it. It goes to 20, you just 600% on your return. What else are you looking for? But I wouldn't be in stocks. The economy is bad. The tariffs are bad. So what else could you go? You want to be out of dollars. So anything, banks, annuities, ETFs, anything like that, why would you be in it? I know you like your gold and silver stocks, but I would wait for the market to crash before buying it. And we just talked $40 trillion are going to be pulled out by the foreigners into wherever. So keep that in mind. And yeah, I forgot the British Open this week, I think. So I don't even know. I haven't even read the scoreboard. All right, a few more minutes of Merck and Alligator.
Well, and that's been your message all along, and I think it's, as you say, and I think you also use this, a sovereign as a perfect example, and you say, well, you can exchange that in the 30s for £1, and now what's it, £500? I mean,
That's 600.
Or 600, exactly. But the thing is, I always carry one around in my pocket because it destroys anybody's argument, and they go, well, gold, isn't it volatile? Well, no, it's not volatile. In fact, you see, I'm calling it 500.
He's all excited.
If someone had offered me 500, I wouldn't have sold it anyway. I wouldn't have sold it for 1,000, to be honest. Physical gold, I never sell.
You'll be putting it back in the vault. I did that once. I was speaking at a function in London. So I travelled up by train to London with a sovereign in my pocket, so that I speech I was sort of waving around, and I lost the bloody thing.
Oh no!
Again, I can tell you.
Poor Alligator. But see what he just said? Mark says, I'll never sell it. Nobody is selling gold and or silver. Occasionally, some guy needs to pay rent or needs to eat. He's selling an ounce to my guy at the store. And then I can go buy it because it's out there. But nobody, the central banks are not selling their 400 ounce bars. They're not selling it. Nobody's selling it. So why is the price going down? The price can only go down if people are selling it, and they're not. So let's take a car. Let's take a Mercedes, right? If everybody's buying it, why would the price go down? It wouldn't. And that's where we see the whole problem of these price fixing, this Madoff COMEX comparison. Luke, I'll tell you this weekend. I looked at coming on Wednesday to Saturday at the whatchamacallit, at the Tuscany, because that's where I'd like to stay. But they have that resort fee. But the one you're at, I don't know if it had a resort. It was pretty good price. So I might do that and just grin and bear the extra $55. I see, like, Spirit, my gym bag or my carry-on's $55. Okay, yeah, it's 110, but okay. The fare's pretty cheap. And I can come. There's a night flight on Wednesday night. So I might come Wednesday to Saturday instead of Thursday to Sunday, because the hotel on Saturday nights is very expensive. So I'd rather get the Wednesday night hotel room and then see you Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then I don't worry about the Saturday night in hotel is crazy. So I might do that. I'm debating about it. I've been waiting to hear from Daria. So the daughter's finally home, so I can kind of relax there. So I'll see. I'll probably make up my mind tonight or tomorrow. It's not a big deal. The flight would be Wednesday, and I'm not really worried about will it be available. There's a couple of nonstops, so I'll decide tonight. I'm just not really, my mind wasn't set to go to Vegas, and waiting to meet Daria in Turkey, or if they end the war in St. Pete. So that's kind of where my mind's at. And we will see. I did go up north. I went up north to an outlet mall an hour away, and so I showed her some purses. I said, decide. So she chose a purse. So I'd have to go up, but I don't know when I'm going to go meet her. So I'll go up when I go meet her. And that's so I feel better that the daughter's okay. And I think I told you that story. So I want to meet you, Luke. It's just, do I want to go to Vegas? I mean, I haven't even been playing poker here because I'm having much more fun buying gold and silver. So we'll see. But if gold, silver does what you say, then I don't care. We won't be looking at money anymore. So I'm not sure. I'll send you a text. Probably tonight. I got to go to the pool. I'm going to go to dinner. I think I might go to the Texas Roadhouse for lunch or dinner after and things like that. But I'll let you know. But no, I appreciate it, and I do want to go. It's just kind of, I'm not really in the mood to go there, but we'll see. I'm trying to talk myself into it. Do you have any investment ideas that you're thinking of? I certainly wouldn't fuck around in Bitcoin, and certainly not in stablecoin. It's not even real. I'd rather be in Madoff than the others.
Oh dear, if somebody was happy. Mind you, they probably didn't recognize it. Probably swapped it for a Mars bar or something, Oh no, Alistair, this is fantastic. And it's timely because I think you've drawn attention to some really important things. And I think, obviously gold, obviously you and I always talk about gold or silver. It's physical. We don't talk about paper, silver or gold. And I think this is a huge opportunity. Anyone who thinks, in my view, who thinks that they've missed the boat, that will wait for a pullback. And yet, when you look at your pound, your dollar, your euro in your wallet, I mean, where's the argument? That is debasing rapidly.
Inflating.
So if I had any spare dollars or euros or pounds, I would just rather quickly as possible put that into gold and silver, because it's simply going to require more of those silly notes to buy the same bit of gold in a month, 2 months, a year from now.
It goes back to the difference between money and credit. Real money is corporeal. I'm talking about the legal position. In other words, it is physical. It is gold and silver, and to a lesser extent, it was copper, though we forget that. I mean, you and I remember coppers. But and everything else, all credit, including currencies, is incorporeal. In other words, it's nothing. It doesn't even exist other than an obligation in the future. I mean, this is why, if you look at the banknote, or Bank of England banknote, you get a script on it, which is getting smaller and smaller, I must say. It's getting into the real small print now. I will exchange this on demand for £1. No, it's now a £10. I mean, we don't have £1 notes anymore. Exchange this for £10, signed by the chief cashier at the Bank of England. What he's referring to is £10 in gold, if you like, at the official rate, which is still 1 sovereign equals £1. And as we say, the loss in value of the pound means that a sovereign is now £600. It's the pound that has gone down. And I think all these guys who sort of fiddle around with government statistics about, inflation and all the rest of it, just miss the point entirely. The thing to do is to, if you want to know how prices have changed from, say, the 1930s to today, I mean, basically, they are 1/600th. The pound is 1/600th of this purchasing power then. Or price has gone up 600 times, whichever way you want to do the equation or diffraction. So, and is this changing? No. If anything, the situation is accelerating, which was going back to what we talked about right at the beginning which is why Rachel from accounts finds herself in enormous difficulties, and she sort of broke down, which I sympathize, I understand, rather than laugh at, because actually it's all our fates. She's made mistakes. She's made huge mistakes in the first budget, but they're political mistakes, and I can understand the mistakes. They're stupid nonetheless in economic terms, but politically.
Okay, we don't need to hear that. So basically, the dollar keeps collapsing, but nobody sees it because what do you see? Well, I got a €5. So you think you don't understand the value of the €5 is worthless. You don't understand the dollar is not worth $1 anymore. It's worth a penny, but you don't see it because you're carrying $1, or you don't even see it because you're using your debit and credit card. How much do I owe? You go to the grocery store. It's $60 for 2 cantaloupes, and you're like, oh, okay, and you pay with it. So you're not even seeing the value of it. You're noticing it costs more at the grocery store to buy the food, or if you go out to eat, or see, it gets hidden at some restaurants because they can't to compete. They can't just make it $100. Right? Like I get Chinese, it's went up from 11 to 15, but we don't really notice it. Now, if she went up to 35, good luck. We'll find somewhere else to eat. And that's really what it is. You'll just shop somewhere else. So they got to keep their prices normal. As I told you about the steak the other day. So I go look Saturday for New York strip and it's $18 a pound. I said, fuck off. I'm not paying that. Now I'm curious if I go there today, if I see a sale for $12. They do it a lot where I go to the meat grocery store. It's a little more high end, but all I buy there is meat and chicken and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see it at $13, $14 soon because they can't move it at 20. And that's the problem. But we don't really notice. We see prices going up, but for us, we understand it's the dollar losing value. Most people don't get that. They're not taught it, and they're taught by Keynesians, would say you can print as much money as you want, Jim Rickards. No, you can't. It affects the value of the dollar, and the value of the dollar is gone. Hence, we buy gold and silver with the value of the dollar, which is what Luke's saying. Would you see investment opportunities? Yes, in gold and silver, they're the best. You can't lose. There's no risk in the portfolio, as I love to say. That's your best investment. It's going to go up. The demand's there. If you hold dollars, you're just losing more and more value. So that's a no-brainer. That's what you need to do, is to go into that. So hence, there you are. Yeah, Luke, it would be fun. And, I'm thinking about it. I have Daria to think about and her daughter. And I'm just, I do want, that's why I kind of went up north a little on the 4th, was to get away. But Vegas is just, maybe downtown would be nice. It's probably not as expensive. And the flight with the stupid luggage, I don't know. I got to see. But I'll check it out. I'm trying to debate. It was tough with Daria. I haven't heard from her all week. Just issues with her daughter and things like that. And Daria tends to, when she has a problem, she doesn't discuss it with me. She gets kind of depressed and she goes within herself, where we would talk it out, right? So I keep saying, you can tell me I'm not going anywhere. I'm not. Oh, you did this. Oh, I can't date you if you did that. So anyway, there's no issue. But that was bothering me. So I heard from her at 2:00 in the morning, which is 9:00 in the morning Russia time. So my phone blew up with the WhatsApp text. So that'll make it much easier. So I'll see. Anyway, so I think that's it. So let's go through baseball one more time. We got Boston 2 units, San Diego 2 units, KC 2 units, St. Louis over 9 2, Milwaukee 2. We thought about Texas because Detroit's on a 4-game losing streak. We thought about Seattle. We liked Seattle over, but they don't score well in Seattle for some reason. Their runs per game are like 4, and on the road they're like 6. So I got to be careful betting the over in a Seattle game where they don't score well in the ballpark. So they got plenty of hitting. And to hit at Detroit at Comerica Park's a big ballpark to get 14 runs a game when they played the 3-game series. We will see. But I think Detroit loses again, but we'll see. Every time I think they're going to lose, they win. So that's it. So Mark McGwire was the guest. It was actually worth listening to. I liked how Mark McGwire did interject with Alligator. So it wasn't just hearing Alligator for 30 minutes. It was a little back and forth, the interject. You still got Mark. It's a much better show. But that's why I don't have guests. You don't want to hear the guests. You want to hear me, especially when it comes to football. Goal too. So we want to hear Mark's, considering he's on once a week, 1 week with the guests, 1 week where he's actually talking about things we want to hear. So that's the key to it. How to protect your wealth long term: buy gold and silver. I get a call for life insurance or something. I don't know where they get my number. I get all these spam phone calls. Oh, do you want life insurance? I see you don't have it. I got gold. Thank you very much. Goodbye. I didn't ask for it. I get a lot of stuff. Oh, you want to add a shower? What are you talking about? I don't want to add a shower. Is that AI at its finest? All right. So earlier in the week, I had talked NFL. If you want to watch that one, I have done some of the conferences. I'm going to do probably by this weekend. I will do the MAC and the South and the Sun Belt. There's a lot of value in those little kind of Joey Aguilar and Troy and all those in the MAC and the Sun Belt. Now, most of their players, if they're any good, get drawn out and they transfer portal over. So we got to see what we have. But I'll go into that. I've gone over the quarterbacks on 2 different occasions, really looking at how to win when you bet, which was basically looking at the quarterbacks from last year. And I went through all those. Mostly a lot of the Big 12 quarterbacks are back. TCU, Baylor. Love Baylor's quarterback, Robertson, Hoover. Texas Tech's got Morton back. Those are really week 1 and week 2's bets because they got the quarterback's already there. It's a known thing. The problem you have with these others, you don't know. And so you could get Joe Montana or you could get Bill Montana, and you'll find out about week 3 who you have. And that's why I don't like betting the new quarterbacks. I'm not sold on Arch Manning. Don't get caught into the bullshit. Oh, Arch Manning, he's Manning. Oh, he's going to win the Heisman. What a bunch of crap. The guy threw 9 touchdowns and 2 picks last year. Not even 1,000 yards. I think he played 2 or 3 games. Did nothing the first year. So boy, he's been there 2 years, hasn't done shit. Ewers was hurt, and he still didn't do shit. When he came in, he didn't do shit. So I don't know. I'm not sold on him. Maybe he starts out good. Maybe he doesn't. I wasn't sold on Peyton Manning. I never thought he was very good. He always choked in the big games. And like I said, I've been watching Baltimore, Buffalo, and then Buffalo, Kansas City. And you can just see why they win, why teams win. And now I think I'll watch the Super Bowl and see Philadelphia kill them. And basically, if you can pressure Mahomes and keep him in the pocket, get pressure up the middle, that's what Tampa did. That's what Philly did. Now, can the other teams do that? Can Denver, San Diego do that to them? Maybe. They are playing closer games. Kelsey's gone. He's a shell of himself. They have some receivers. Pacheco's okay. He's a decent runner, not superstar. So KC's going to – I don't know if they are pissed because they lost last year and they were trying to do a three-peat. So I think they could have a letdown this year because you go to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, like you're playing all these extra games. It's a little bit tough. You get a lot of injuries, so we'll see. The Niners, I think, the teams that lost, you think will do good. Alabama, Georgia, they're going to be on fire. The Rams are coming. The Niners will be pissed the way they played. Seattle, I think, will suck this year. The Giants should be better with Russell Wilson and Scatterboo, as long as they play Scatterboo and not whoever their stupid running back is from last year. Washington, look for Daniel. I heard about the sophomore slump. I'm like, not with Daniels. That's ridiculous. Did Joe Burrows have a sophomore slump? Did Mahomes? No. That's just bullshit. CJ Stroud wasn't that good. That's why he didn't have a sophomore slump. He played over his head the first year. So I think that's what you see. I think Daniels will be good. Penix will be great. Bo Nix, they'll just get better. With Sean Payton, they'll know how to work each other. And I think the Lions will take one or two steps back without their coordinators. We will see Hutchinson. I doubt he'll be back before October. He can say he's ready to practice, but there's a big difference getting hit and playing a full game of pro football with leg broken in two parts. So be careful of that. And that's why you got to wait and see him in the lineup, see how he plays. They are at Green Bay. See what happens in that game. I do like that game over. We'll see. But I haven't done picks. Somebody said, I'm looking at your picks. I don't have picks yet. I'm making suggestions. Now, it's different than gold and silver. Those are for sure picks. The week one picks aren't – we got to see if there's injuries. I haven't officially made an NFL pick yet, or Georgia Tech or any of those. Those are not official picks. Those are just looking at them in the beginning, and then we will see. But I haven't posted a pick yet, and I don't know I will take certain teams or not take certain teams. I'm leaning towards the over in the Buffalo-Baltimore game, but I haven't picked it yet. I got to make sure everybody gets through unscathed, and we got a month. But that's where I'm leaning. The under in the Bear game. There's no quarterback on the field, so where are they going to score points? Washington, Denver, Kansas City. I mean, so there's games I like, but I haven't done a pick yet. I know you guys hear me make like the suggestions, and then you're all like, but it did good well. It did do well for for Titus last year. He took my games that I didn't even pick and made 18 grand. So I was happy for him, but I was like, I didn't play Mississippi under. It did. I liked it, and it went under, but I didn't play it. This is the problem. I have so many games that I can't play them all. And so I try to throw out the losers, and the losers are winning. So anyway, that's what happens. So I think that's it. So have a good day. Let's check out our gold and silver as we leave. The gold price is $33.51. It's 2:00. It closes at 5:15. So I think it'll just sit at the 33.50 the rest of the day. Silver 38.25. That's gonna settle right there, and I think that's good. So anyway, I think I'm off to the restaurant, and then I'll go swimming. Right now, it's about the right time. The restaurant won't be crowded. I could go swimming now, but I think I'd rather, and I probably should, because you don't want to really swim on a full stomach. So I might swim first and then go. Anyway, that's what's happening. It was raining, but now here it's nice and sunny. Be good. If you got questions, www.teaserking.com. Luke, I will text you. For sure tonight with what I'm doing. I'll check the prices out. And again, the hotel. But your hotel was a lot cheaper than the Tuscany. I'm not normally a downtown person. I'm normally at Caesars and Venetian playing poker and betting on sports. But like I said, I haven't gone to MGM downtown Detroit in a long time. I'm having much more fun buying gold and silver and making money than trying to play poker and losing my stake in gold and silver. So I'm happy enough buying the gold and silver. So we will see. Anyway, have a good day. www.teaserking.com. I'm very happy. I heard from Daria that the daughter's home, and you know, hopefully everything's okay, and we'll go from there. So hopefully I beat her soon. I'm gonna shoot for September. I'm sure she wants to meet. She's just scared of air travel and she's scared of the war, so she wants all that to end. Well, I understand that. Anyway, that's what's happening. So have a good day, everybody. www.teaserking.com. 3351 gold, 3824 silver. Buy and buy and buy. Zero risk in your portfolio. The only thing you can buy, I mean, I guess you can buy diamonds, like, you can buy like a chain, but I prefer the coins because you're buying an ounce of gold. But if you can get like a $1,000 gold necklace, but it's, at least a half ounce, I don't know if you can do that. This was an ounce of gold. Take your magnet. If it sticks, it's bullshit. If it doesn't stick, it's probably real gold. And it depends on the jeweler you go to. Anyway, I think that's it. So go enjoy your weekend. Luke, take care. I will talk to you. Bobby, where the hell are you, Bobby? I haven't seen you in months. Anyway, I hope Bobby's okay. Bobby Baudet, I hope you fired or sued your attorney for fucking you over. And that's good. All right. So have a good day, everybody. Take care.